Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We are here live with Co-working Live with Red Worldwide, and we're excited for just what we're going to be able to do today. Today is our Smarter Start Boot Camp, and we are really, really excited about being able to bring content that helps people to make a smarter start or a smarter restart, or to help them to do the things that they need to do in order to make their business more effective. Sometimes, and you're not starting over, you're just starting again in the week or the month, with the renewed vision or renewed opportunity. And sometimes we're adding things and we're, switching things up a little bit to make our businesses more effective and to run more efficiently. We're adding new operating procedures or, many other things. And so we have Smarter Start Bootcamp here, each week to try to help make those types of things that you're bringing to the forefront in your business happen more efficiently and more effectively. Thank you so much for all of you guys who sent Mother's Day greetings my way. I am so excited about the fact that I had so many people that, weighed in on my Mother's Day and were just a blessing to me to just share, words of encouragement. And that was such an amazing, amazing thing. We had a great day. It wasn't the usual. I wasn't with any of my children live and in person, but I had the ability to share with children on Zoom or on FaceTime. And that was such a blessing. Grandchildren, everybody was, just a blessing to me. And so I just wanted to make sure that I publicly said thank you because some of you all did participate in that as well. Today, we're going to be talking about leadership. And I wanted to really take the opportunity to have just a wonderful display of what it is that we need to be looking at when we're talking about leadership and management and some of these things that are going to help your companies do things more effectively or more efficiently, I should say. And so while we're talking about leadership today, I'm going to share some material and some information, and then we're going to end it by talking about habits, okay? Because habits really are our decision support making system, and I really want to make sure that as we're looking at everything that we have, in our circle to help us do business better, that we also look at our habits, because our habits do help us to, they're there to help make the brain save effort. And we want to use them, in our management, in our processing, in our running of day-to-day activities to make sure that we're not overworking when we don't have to. So we're going to start here today. And I mean, just really look at leadership, from this particular standpoint. There are some kickoffs, if we can say it this way. When we're thinking about leadership, we've got to be thinking about it from a standpoint of every person, who follows, of course, it has someone to lead, and every person who leads has someone to follow them. And as we're looking at a matrix, if you could imagine, and just have it in your mind, from every person that's, whether they're an employee or a contractor, all the way up to the executive, there's something in place that, or I should say, that needs to be in place, to help you, in your process, whether you're the one who's creating an opportunity for people to follow, and listen to what I said, creating an opportunity for people to follow, or you're the one who's actually taking the opportunity, as it's being presented to you to follow. The process is really the same as you descend from the top area of leadership, and you go all the way down to the very bottom. And I don't want to look at it from the standpoint of someone being on the bottom, but I want you to understand that there is a matrix, okay, and that people move from employee or contractor or server to supervisor to manager and then to executive. Everyone in this particular um, matrix has a part to play. And the better you lead, of course, the better people will be able to follow. But the better you follow, the better you'll understand how to lead when it's your turn, because everyone has an opportunity to lead at some point. And so we want to be, thinking about this from the standpoint of leadership being the opportunity for you to get people to do what you want them to do. I mean, it's just that simple. Leaders need followers to be successful, and good followers can make good leaders. Okay. Good leaders have been excellent followers. And I take that from one of my most esteemed instructors. Okay. He was, amazing teacher, for me when I was getting my MBA. And I'm telling you, he talked a lot about strength-based leadership. And when we're thinking about leadership, sometimes, we think about, barking orders or people who have barked orders at us, but not really realizing that some of the people who have been most influential in leadership, to us might have been people who were extremely good followers to the people that they learned leadership from. So, when you're thinking about leadership, I want you to, if you have a chance right now, to grab a pen and a piece of paper. I want you to draw or a line down the center or fold it in half. And I want you to put managers on one side and leaders on the other side. Okay. Now, I want you to separate some people in your mind, okay, who you might consider to be managers, people who you have had in your life and they managed you, or had to manage in any way something that you were participating in. And I want you to just jot their names down. Just jot down 2 or 3, okay? People that you can remember who were good managers, okay? And then and on that list, these could be people, maybe you're not in a situation where you have a formal, commitment as far as the job is concerned, or you're not in any organization where there's management per se. So you don't necessarily have to have this be someone that's in your life right now. It could have been, a former manager in a previous job, or it could have been a former manager on some type of a sports team, or it could have been someone you consider to be a manager in your family. I think about my mom. Okay. And I also think about my mentor mom, Mom Linda. Okay. These are people who I feel are extremely good managers. I watch, my mother, and she managed so many different scenarios, from Girl Scouts and Cub Scouts to, different types of, organizations or small committees and things at the college, and, or even at the church where we went. My mother was very involved in, a lot of the things that went on there, and she managed a team of people, that helped to run things in the church. And then when I look at Mom Linda, she has a, ministry, and she's been called to leadership, and management in several different things that I've watched her do with organizations that we participated in, or, within that organization, there was a women's group, and she, participated in some things there, but then I want you to take that other side of the paper, and I want you to write down 3 people really quickly that you have seen as being effective leaders. Okay. And that doesn't mean that they're without error or that they never made mistakes. It just means, that they were effective in getting people to do what they wanted them to do, whatever that thing is. They were good followers to the people that led them, and they also had excellent followers because they were good leaders. Okay. And so I want you to write those people down. And I have some people in my mind, that have been extremely good leaders. It's amazing to me how some of the people who I saw as good managers also end up on the list as good leaders. Okay. Because for whatever reason, the as I was in the fellowship of those people, and I was under them, in management, I watched their management skills and I watched their leadership skills, which are two different things, by the way. But I want you to understand, just for this moment, I just want you to write the names down. We don't want to kind of break down what the difference is between management and leadership, because we'll do that in another few minutes. But when we're looking at leadership, we want to be looking at the fact that, a person who is a leader, they have to have experience, creativity, and management. Okay. And so on the back of your paper, kind of turn it over, and I want you to just, draw a triangle. And on that triangle, I want you to, put on one side creativity, on the other side experience, and on the bottom management. Okay. Because, when you're talking about, the concept of being a leader, you have to be able to have the experience, the knowledge, the skills, and the credentials, okay, to really operate effectively in leadership. When we're talking about having experience, it leads to understanding of cause and effect. When you do this, this happens. And experience is one of the greatest teachers when it comes to that. I never forget when I was in my first position of leadership, I had a lot to learn. I really did, because I had to kind of get into this place. I was very, very timid, I had the capability of being a good leader, but I was very timid and easily influenced by the looks and emotions of others, and I don't know if anyone can resonate with that, but sometimes when you're in a position of leadership, and others, may have who might be in the room, who might also be, in leadership in some other capacity in some place, but not where you are at the moment, their influence can really be impactful and sometimes detrimental to what it is that you're trying to do if you don't understand what to do with it. So let's talk about the experience that a good leader has to have in order for them to not get into that position and to be able to operate effectively. Well, you got to understand that the leader looks at the big picture. Okay, they are, really paying attention to things that are, around them. And sometimes, the big picture may not take into account for some things that people are seeing, with their myopic view. But the bottom line is that you're the leader and you have to be able to see more of the picture than everybody else, okay? So that you can effectively deal with the things that are, going on. You have to understand that work environments sometimes are not stable. Events, might be happening in isolation, and there might be a chain of events. And so you've got to be thinking about all of these things, while you're leading, and the ability for you to take your skills, your knowledge, and your credentials and, utilize everything you have so that you can effectively pull in, those things to help you while you're leading, really does cause you to become more effective in what you're doing. You have to be knowledgeable of others, and you have to be looking at the diverse viewpoints, professional and personal. And all of those things are really important. I mean, you have to have, more than just your thought process in mind, or your experiences, or your history, or the things that you have been introduced to. You've got to be able to see things from different perspectives so that you can make sure that your leadership is effective for everyone that's in the room. Okay, it's no longer, who you know. Okay, it is who you know that knows what you know. Okay. um, and inexperienced people tend to be captive to a small number of acquaintances. I mean, they have a very small circle. And unfortunately, because of that, sometimes they don't have the viewpoint, professionally or personally, to be able to approach a leadership position, in a way that is going to grab all of the people that are in the room. And when I say in the room, I'm not necessarily saying that you might, be just leading for the day. I mean, when I say in the room, I'm talking about in your environment, in your space, whether it's a physical space, or whether it's a space that expands a diaspora. Experienced people realize that they need to experience or to have an experience that are largely impacted by, lots of things, other people, and to become successful, they have to, inform themselves. I know you've heard the statement, leaders are readers. Sometimes you may not be able to have the experience of traveling to many different countries or being in many different environments, but through reading, you can bring into your experiences, a wealth of knowledge. And so you got to understand that it's really important for you as a leader to be a very a very accepting person of lifelong learning, so that you are not positioning yourself so that you're constantly just, focused on what is right now, what it is that, I need to know for this moment. But, expanding your capacity knowledge wise and your knowledge base, to incorporate the potential things that you will have to do. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about management. We talked about having, our triangle. So we got experience on the right and management on the bottom. So management really is the foundation of leadership. And there are a couple of things that I want you to pay attention to. You want to have, the look of whether something's effective or whether it's successful. Okay, so we have effective managers and we have successful managers. And really, when we're looking at effective versus successful, there's really this allocation of time. Okay. Because there are some people who, yes, we need to be effective and it's great for us to be successful, but at what cost? Okay, and so we want to be looking at efficacy from this standpoint. 19%, of people who are traditional leaders, okay, are effective. Okay, 44% are communicators. Yeah, and this is a study that was done, that pulled these particular numbers out. I'll share the information with you if you really are interested in knowing, a little bit more about the study. But 26% in this study were human, resources trained, if I can say it that way, and 11%, okay, were networkers. Okay, and so we want to kind of look at from the effective side or the efficacy side, the things that go into making a person, more effective in their leadership, and from a management standpoint, really has to do with communication. I wrote a series of books, and I'm still, writing in that particular series, called Power Stations. And Power Stations itself was designed to help people learn how to be effective communicators, to increase their communication acumen, because I really have come to understand that the better we are in communicating, with people, the more effective we are in leading. And so my goal was to help people learn how to develop out their communication acumen so that they would be able to effectively communicate with people. And so I have, like I said, I have several books in that series, and I'd love for you all to take a look at that. You can go to patiencerose.com/books, and you can find the Power Stations books that are available currently in the bookstore there, so that you can take advantage of that. And then if you really are interested and you can't afford to buy one, we give that book away for people who really want it. And, for whatever reason, they just don't have the ability to purchase it today. Well, we give away the ebook. And, if you're interested in that, you can always, send me an email, admin@redworldwide.org, and we will get you a copy. So what is creativity? Okay, we talked about the fact that we have a foundation of management, and that is born of communication, okay, at the bottom. And we have our experience on the right side. But now we're looking at our left side of our triangle, which is creativity. And I want you to understand that creativity really has more to do with novel associations that lead to new outcomes. I mean, it's looking at things that exist already and making something else that doesn't. That's creativity, and so when we're looking at leadership, a lot of times in leadership, we have to create something out of nothing, almost, it seems. We have to look at what's missing, and we have to, see the thing that we have and see how can we create what we need out of what it is, or how can we create what's missing out of what it is that we have. So the requirements for that, we have to have a pool of inputs, things that, we can utilize to put in there. The ability to see it from that perspective, that there's connections, available. And then the courage to move forward, to pursue it, because once you think you have, found the answer, it's almost impossible to go back and find something different. So you've got to be able to have a very fresh perspective and a way of looking at things that, is different than, the norm. I remember I was in a situation which was very challenging at a time in my life, very restrictive. And I had a lot of, when I say restrictive, there were lots of rules and structures, in place that did not allow me, what I would have considered the level of creativity that I would need to be able to manage in that situation, or for that matter, lead in that situation, because there were so many rules. And a lot of people will see the military like that sometimes, where they'll be like, it's just too many rules, too many restrictions, too many things that, are causing me to not be able to move in a direction that I think would give me a tremendous outcome. Well, I will tell you this, that for whatever reason, the more restrictions that were placed on me, the more creative I became. And it's interesting, but I see it because I have noticed that when in situations, I was in a class once and I thought that he was the most horrible instructor at first. Okay. And I felt like, man, this person is always causing me challenges, and, why does he make it so hard? And, and I remember at this time, my daughter and I were both getting our MBA. Well, no, I was getting a master's degree in instructional design. We were both getting the same degree. degree, but she was a couple of months behind me, and she had the same instructor 2 months later. And I remember her saying some of the same things. Man, why does this guy make this stuff so difficult? Nobody likes him. He's just the most horrible teacher, and these were the things that were coming out of her mouth at the time. And I remember thinking those same things when I was in the class at the beginning. I had a different viewpoint by the end, though, because the more restrictive he became and the more he, made it to seem like it was going to be more challenging, and he added more, structure on top of things, which did not allow me to be the creative person, at least I thought at that time. I got an A in that class. Well, and here's the thing. I got an A in the class because the more restrictive he became, the more I had to search for ways to be creative within the bounds that he had created. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, they dropped the class before they got to the main part, which was to have the ability to show their level of creativity with the least amount of room, to be creative. And I mean, it was amazing, the product and what came out of that class. I still use it today in some things that I am doing, because I grew so much in that 4-week period. And what it was that I was able to come to the table with is something that was produced out of, I would have said, adversity almost, because he made it so hard. But it was something that was, worth a lot more, okay, to put forth as a product, and a service, So I'm saying to you that sometimes when you are in a situation where it seems as though things are very tight and there's no room for you to move around, those are the times when the creativity actually can become even more valuable, because you have, in that situation, you've got, the ability to see where there's a problem. And there's a solution, and now you start looking for the pool of inputs, what it is that I can use. And then you'll start seeing the connections between those things that you do have, because there's so little room. You'll be able to easily see how those things can come together. And then you'll have, to add this courage. You have to pull the courage in. No one else is going to jump to hand you courage. Courage and boldness are things that you have to build within your character. And once you have that, now you have the key ingredients to, being the most creative you've probably ever been in your life. You have mastered a language when you can think in that language. And I tell people this all the time, we talk about language, and the language of creativity is one that is first and foremost the most, I would say, important language, when it comes to leadership, because you have to learn how to be effective in many different kinds of environments. And sometimes within those environments, there are barriers that just could, create for you, the worst types of challenges. Is at least that's how you might see it at the time. But those psychological barriers, cultural barriers, environmental barriers, thinking language blocks, okay? Modal blocks, those things that causes you to feel like, this is not possible. Functional fixedness. I love that particular wording or phrase, because it really is, something that people put in place, these habitual ways of visualizing, things that cause us to do other things, And so I'm saying to you that those are perceived. These barriers are perceived because they really are not there. They are there in our minds, but they're really not there. These are barriers to creativity, that we have allowed to become barriers, but they weren't designed that way. I believe that many of the things that we call barriers are really designed to make us more creative, and we have somehow caused ourselves to become paralyzed by those barriers and not move forward. So I want you to take a deep breath and just relax and expand your horizons. Look around you, listen, read more, observe, draw, do all of these things so that, you can really get yourself out of the position of feeling locked in and so structured that you can't make a move. Because as a leader and a good manager, you have got to understand that unless you're willing to try to move forward in a situation that could seem very challenging, you will never get anywhere. You'll be stuck. Okay. And stuck is not what we want to be. So seek agreement, to be creative up front, and that agreement sometimes has to be with yourself. You have to sometimes allow yourself the room to be creative, and don't get upset if you make a mistake, because 100% of the failure rates, okay, or I should say 100% of the inventions have a failure rate. Those failure rates help us to see what worked. And so we've got to be able to see ourselves differently, as we're looking at our creative leadership. Creative barriers can be overcome, okay? Those barriers like psychology that helps us to think that we can't move forward because of this, or we can't do it because of that. Seek out the diversity in the situation, and use some brainstorming to try to help yourself get past certain things, because it's going to be important as you move forward to see exactly what it is that you are doing from that standpoint. That's the good news. Okay. Barriers can be overcome. The bad news is you got to work at it. It's not something that you are going to be able to do easily. And so I have to make sure that you understand that from that standpoint, there's nothing that you could do to cause you to wake up one day and be the leader. You have got to put in the work. You've got to put in the work. Now, let's talk a little bit. We've got just a few minutes left. I wanted to share, a few things about habits, because when you are really moving forward in your leadership, you've got to have some decision support. You have to have some decision support. You're moving so quickly. Making decisions is a thing that, sometimes can become a challenge. And you have to position yourself so that, the challenges are, things that you have decided that you are willing to come into, bring into your life and handle. So I wanted, to really share a few things with you. And I just want you to watch this, video real quickly, because I think that it, might bring some context. When you think about leadership and you look at this, I mean, you can't help but understand, okay, that something starts from somebody somewhere, and that person that starts it brings a tremendous effect on every person that is touched. And when I see this particular reaction, thinking about the dominoes, okay? One small introduction, one small action, one small move in any direction is going to have an effect on every person that it touches. And so, knocking down sometimes a very, very big barrier, or for that matter, a very, very big construct, whether, it be something political or something in business or something organizational, or some threat or risk. It starts with a very small leadership move. So when we're looking at the concept of leadership, I really want you to be thinking about, okay, what's the move? What is the move that causes me to be able to be that effective leader and to do it quickly? And so some of the times we have to unlearn unproductive habits. We have to be able to cultivate excellent character, if we want an extraordinary life. And if we want to become an extraordinary leader, we really have to be able to learn how to use our habits productively. So what is a habit? Well, a habit is a settled or regular tendency or practice, especially one that's hard to give up. We stayed together out of habit. Okay, you might have heard somebody say that, that's kind of a, broad scope, but for the most part, something that a person does in theory or in practice over time, is, something that has a great effect on what it is that they're continuing to do. And so as we are looking at this from this standpoint, I just really want you to see it, very clearly that a habit is practice. It's something that it's a practice. It's a mannerism. It's something that you do, so habits, are our decision support system. They help our brain save effort. They're meant to serve us. And when our habits don't serve our purpose, they pollute it. They cause us to have a problem. This is one of the quotes from one of the books that I've written. And I want to just, make sure you do understand that when we're, in a situation where we have habits that are not serving us well, we have to reframe them. And so I'm going to, make sure that you are very clear on what this is over the next 2 minutes, because, talking about having habits and being in the position where our habits are serving us or not, okay, is something that we have got to put is at the forefront of the things on our list, okay, of things we need to change. Okay, we've got to be able to swap our frame of reference for one that serves us better. If our habits aren't serving us, we're doing things that are counterintuitive to what it is that we are trying to portray or that we're trying to help other people learn to do. We have got to make sure that we swap those things out and put things in place that actually will help us to become more effective in our leadership. I will tell you that many times, I have, been in a situation where my habits weren't serving me well. And I had put things in place that I thought, I had kind of killed certain tasks or things that, would crop up from time to time. And I noticed I was doing it again. So what do I have to do? Well, unlearning is a little difficult sometimes. Learning is easy, but unlearning is a little difficult because some of those things want to stick around because they're familiar and you've been used to doing them over and over and over again. But some of the habits that you have to serve notice. Like I talked about when we started, when you are a leader and you have people that are really impactful in their circle of influence and they're under your leadership now, and they tend to be strong in their personality. Sometimes if you have the kind of personality that I used to have, you might cower instead of rising to the occasion of leadership. And so it's really important for you to be able to serve those habits notice that would cause you to not be your best leader, in that type of situation, because everyone needs leadership. And in all situations, there are going to be people that have to come under to allow themselves to follow the leader at the time that they're in that position, no matter how much they know and what kind of or where they come from, what particular station they have in life, if I can say it that way. So, you understanding that it's important for you to have a new paradigm that will allow you, the ability to move forward, understanding that your habits are a decision support system and they support the decisions that you make. When you make a decision and you move in a certain direction to follow even what you have put in place, those standard operating procedures or the policies or whatever it is that you put in place as the leader, when you're following them and you are a proponent of those things being done, then other people will follow as well. Because I can tell you that leadership is modeled just like fellowship is modeled. And so understanding that you have to even get in alignment with what it is that you're putting in place is really, really important. So, I want to just end with this. I have to give you, my viewpoint from my own experience. And my viewpoint is when I have made a conscious effort to unlearn the unproductive habits and replace them with habits that served me better, it caused me to position myself so that things that were in my life could, work, to support every part of my leadership. And I didn't look differently on paper or in my books that I have written or in the customs that I've created or in the paradigm that I'm pushing forth than I do in my activities, in my behavior. I like to call it divine right behavior. The behavior that came forth out of me that people could see and that they could, actually, pick apart if they needed to understand how it would work for them. These are things that are very, very important. And I thank you for, sharing this time with us today because, we believe that the Smarter Start Bootcamp will help you to become the most effective in your business and to do business better. And so we want you to be here with us again tomorrow. We have, some special things planned for tomorrow that we believe will help to, support your vision, and in succession planning and legacy. And so we want you to be a part of that and understand how it works and how effective it's supposed to be for the things that we are doing daily. And with that said, we'll see you again next time.